is going to be Ilios. That was ended up chosen here by our higher seeded Northview squad. And jumping in, we're going to be at Ilios Lighthouse. This is that map where it's really fun to kind of look at each other. I remember on the tank lineup and then jump right past each other. And these tanks that they've picked are really good at doing that. The Diva Hazard matchup.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best way to do so. You go ahead and swing a little bit. Whale, of course, back on that venture, which we know and love. And I think we have the names backwards here. I think Northview is actually on that red side to start things off. So we'll see how it goes. But, of course, we get the early start here as, yeah, it's an immediate wash. Northview going to go ahead and take the early battle, and then some G fighters stepping up into the mix and making sure that they're front and center, as these Kentwood are left a little bit to their paces.
Yeah, point control is going to end up going to Northview early on. You're totally right, Orbital. The names are just a little bit reversed, but that's A-okay. You and I recognize these players, and I recognize a really nice clean take when I see one. Now it's just a matter of setting up for the next neutral fight. There's nothing too exciting that you're really going to have to talk about here on Ilios, at least not in this particular matchup. It's going to be a lot of that poking, prodding, looking for these openings for opportunities, and also making sure that you're not letting too much time pass by before opening up a fight on the objective. That's ultimately where you want to be, what you want to control, and getting Diva out of mech is a great way to start inching towards that.
Yep, go ahead and get some victories for yourself, but we see the immediate swap back from East Kentwood. They're able to find a couple of their own, but Whale is still holding it down here after the first touch. You can see them contesting, which is racking up that timeline a little bit further. Northview going ahead and continuing up their reign, but there's a clear, and East Kentwood take control of the point 42%, none too easily.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to, well, actually, they haven't generated all of their ultimates yet, so this is actually really interesting. You've seen how hard East Kentwood has kind of had to fight for this objective with these DPS ults that they're going to be able to use to start this fight with a little more advantage. They already have control over the objective, so you're forcing Northview into your game there, and now you just have to find these follow-up eliminations, maybe off the backs of ultimates, but Bola not able to be deployed there by I Love Blade, and so the rest is going to be up to Daya and the East Kentwood squad. You have to get this pesky Juno off the high ground to sever that lifeline, or maybe even dive the brig. At the very least, forcing ultimates from the defenders is a really good thing. I'm sorry, from the attackers. Now the defenders. Northview managed to take that objective.
Yeah, that was a great dive bomb in there, and yet again, it was off that rally. You call that down as soon as possible, and East Kentwood, they just got their ults. And you take a look at the extra shielding behind it, it's going to hold for a little bit longer, I would say, but East Kentwood, they're not going to enjoy this next engagement. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be dependent on who launches the ults first, and I feel like that's going to be East Kentwood.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh! There's the Bola from Joy. Yeah, and it's a really good pick on the Kawaii Aurora. Oh my goodness, I can't speak today. I'm still waiting on this Hazard ultimate to come out, actually. It's going to be a really good way to help answer to some of these flyers on the side of Northview. I just got to see that trigger pull.
Jeez. Well, the thing is, they're kind of holding on to it. They say, hey, we want to get onto the point first, but they're not being given the option here. And that's actually really detrimental. They're staying on these ults for so long, and I really, really dislike it. Now they break out the Kitsune Rush, and it's the gates that are just a little bit too late. They need to find extra picks. And honestly, Dia with that first frag onto Whale, but the orbital rate is going to be so good. Now the beat drop comes out, but no one got hit. No one got hit on East Kentwood's side, and that means it's Northview to reign supreme. Just a little bit of, I want to say, miscommunication from the side of East Kentwood, and Northview are allowed to skirt by that ultimate exchange.
I actually really liked the opposition that Northview was putting up, because you're totally on the money, Orbital. It was really hard for East Kentwood to find the openings to go through with some of these options that they had. Perhaps for them, it's a little bit of a realization that it's actually pursuing the options first, or the opportunities to ultimate, or to go on an angle, or to engage on a target, that will then open up the opportunities. So maybe a little bit of miscommunication maybe a misprioritization. At the end of the day, we're heading into a brand new submap orbital, and this is a really good opportunity to try out some adapting, because that was actually a round that you do want to adapt to, right? That was a really strong hold from Northview. For East Kentwood, this is a great opportunity in a best-of-5 series where the stakes don't have to be so high so soon to try something new and see how it works. So that's why I really like I love the May Echo combo on East Kentwood. I don't know what the plan is, but I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and hopefully it comes out to really, really nice play. I mean, whenever you get to this middle ground here, it's comfort levels, a different type of comfort level. And you're taking a look at Northview, who already get first touch here on the point. They're going to go ahead and start climbing. So for East Kentwood, it's all about how can you break in to this battle if you can at the end of the day.
Well, you're going to be able to break into it by pushing people out. G-Fighter does manage to get the spear spin onto Amity. I Love Blade ends up going down in the process as well. Ooh, this spear might actually be very, very dangerous from G-Fighter to deal with. And Orisa as this brawl tank to help slow down any of the attacking endeavors from East Kentwood. I actually really like this choice.
Yeah, I think it's a very nice clothesline at the end of the day, and East Kentwood just can't do anything, and we're right back into that position of East Kentwood need to build up their ult economy. They need to go ahead and start laying down some extra damage. I mean, Dia is just moments away, but Will is going to try and disrupt, and that's what we're going to watch for. As soon as Northview hit some of their ults, I think they're going to try and break away, but of course, Blade is able to find one. Can they find more?
There's some really nice cooldown exchanges there. The Fortify from the Orisa to block the sleep. This is a composition that you can go really fast to play, to force your enemies to play really slowly. And oh man, East Kentwood is going to start slowing down with their early picks and now secured eliminations onto I Love Blade. And the rest of the team looking to really make something happen on point. Free Shots is able to get something out of this entire exchange, but ultimately the picks still are not here for them to fully control the objective. In fact, you're still suffering a couple of losses, especially as Northview returns to this point.
Yeah, you called it out just perfectly. So even though the fight technically was won by East Kentwood, it isn't fully controlled, meaning Northview were allowed to kind of pitter onto the point. They're able to kind of stagger their way in, which allowed the rest of Northview to go ahead and step into the mix. Really, really well done. East Kentwood not enjoying this one, and now they've used just about everything. They need the ults ready to go. Free should have theirs, but it's going to be a last-ditch effort here at the very end.
The Hazard ult deployed. It doesn't get anything, but it might force some repositions from Northview. They have ultimates, though, to use themselves. It was a reposition so that they could get value out of their abilities, not so that they could dodge East Kentwood. And now you've just got a whale to signal the end of this round of this map and a send-off into the next one with some really serious confidence that, yes, we can definitely hold this objective, or hold the next objective the way we were able to hold these ones.
I mean, this is just well controlled from Northview from start to finish. No chance at all to change things up. And Northview in one of the quicker control sets. Very, very good. And again, it's G-Fighter. We mentioned G-Fighter yesterday being that all-around powerful tank player for the side of Northview. Very, very controlling in that mix. 23 in there on the bank and just always standing firm. And it felt like it was because East Kentwood did go for the DPS and the utility, which is the right call at the end of the day. It's not bad to do so, but G-Fighter is allowed to kind of step into the limelight, and the diversion of healing over to the Orisa, very, very clean. And for Northview, I think they're going to be really happy about that one.
I strongly agree. Orbital, you and I got to talk a little bit yesterday about the tanks, and I really wanted to be a little more specific there. But you and I did a lot of tank talk yesterday about the tank matchups, the tank mannerisms, the whole running past each other's tanks deal, and how that forces the rest of each team to kind of play around that. And so I really like that you've identified G-Fighter as a really important facet of the Northview roster. I'm really excited to see what other tanks are in their pool. We've seen a pretty nice depth to that tank roster from G-Fighter, and so even seeing a little bit, even seeing a couple more heroes is going to be a lot of fun. The thing for me is I would imagine heading into the next map. I think that I know what our next map is. Um, I couldn't imagine G Fighter playing a different tank or a different style, really. You know, it's still even if you're not on the Orisa, you're still on that brawly style, and even if you're
Yeah.
playing a brawly style that doesn't include the horse, you're still on a brawl tank.
Yeah,
So how different
it's
are we actually going to see? Mhm.
I don't think you need to go different. So there's a school of thought whenever it comes down to Overwatch 2, when it comes down to these kind of hero shooters, in a very clash heavy, fighter style. It's you can swap over if you want to go for the wrecking ball. If you want to go a little bit silly, you can. However, there are set situations that if you are overwhelming your opponent in terms of just sheer skill, you can stick with the same characters all day long. It doesn't matter what hero you swap to. It doesn't matter which DPS you're running. It just matters that you can land the shots. And with the Orisa, I think Orisa has some of the highest firepower when it comes to just stalwart spears and stalwart gunning. Orisa has that in spades.
Mhm.
If you go to something like a diva, it's a little bit more spread out. It's not so piercing. When you look at something like a Sigma or anything like that, it's there. So I don't think you need to change. What I'm looking at is East Kentwood. I need to see East Kentwood change stuff up. That's who I want to see get a little bit of that exchange factor. And when looking at hybrid, I need to see them be rocking on both offense and defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really is just more that we want to see from East Kentwood. More seizes of opportunities and openings of windows, and I think that you get that a little bit. Absolutely, if East Kentwood is able to, pull some of those triggers a little bit, right, get into some of those positions a little bit faster, engage on those targets a little more together. But also, honestly, if Northview lets up a little bit, I think that we get to see East Kent look really, really good. So I'm really excited to see how it's going to be East Kentwood that gets the map pick. So
Yes.
again, I think I know what map we're going to. Our options are Hollywood, Kings Row, and Midtown. And I promise you, there are two maps that people would not rather play over Kings Row in general. So um, with East Kentwood being able to pick the map here, they have a
Ooh.
really excellent opportunity to challenge the norms and conventions and standards of Overwatch tournament, of like organized Overwatch play. So, wow, the Midtown choice. This is bold. I've had my expectations subverted. What do I do?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of sitting there shocked as well. This is I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, for East Kentwood, this has to be that shake-up moment. Even though this is a BO5, it still comes to reason that you need to be very comfortable in some of these 1v1 paces. I don't Okay, so they swapped again, I believe, and so Northview is actually starting on the attack. East Kentwood opted for the defense to start things off, and in that realm, that's surprising all the same. Because I'm looking at Kawhi, and I don't know if I've ever seen one in a while, right? Like, you're taking a look, some of
Mhm.
these heroes that you're choosing, very, very unconventional.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. It also kind of plays to the strengths of certain positions on this map. This looks like a brawl composition, but ends up playing a little bit more like a poke comp, and so it's a lot of like individual kind of frag out potential on some very powerful angles. I actually really like the one that our horse hero is playing here. You've got free shot, really challenging the standard of playing this brawl position and possibly isolating. I love Blade on the May there. With the freeze, the cryo freeze in effect, the rest of Northview knows that they
Oh.
can push that target, and Isla Blade unfortunately ends up just out of formation for a little bit too long. The rest of this poke composition doesn't form to play the brawl, and that's going to end up pushing them into this really enclosed space. It's really hard to do anything from here, Orbital.
Yep, and honestly, I love the fact that Northview are pushing the envelope here. Joy jumps right into the mix, creating space for the rest of Northview to just punch on through. And East Kentwood can do nothing. The Zenyatta ain't working that much. Dia was on a little bit of a shaky DPS as well, swapping over to the Sojourn now. I don't like their compositional output in Northview. They're sticking with the same. The Vermatra to come out for G Fighter, really good at kind of burning the opponent down and then seeking that backline. So Northview, once again, playing their own style. Whale already at 68, 69%. It's not going to stop. They're going to be really, really comfortable.
Yeah. Oh man, Kentwood's composition. It's one that you just all have to be absolutely on the same page at the same points in the map. Midtown is actually really difficult to get a grasp of. So I really like the style, the effort, the ideas that East Kentwood has. Now we just have to see a really good execution. Getting a good one on a whale is a good start, and that's a really nice engagement by Onade, anti-healing some of these enemies that have now domineered this high ground and are winning the fight up here now. East Kentwood, even with the blows to trade, even with the damage to do and the pressure to apply, still not able to really hold on top of this position. It's a really nice fight from Northview. Really great setup so that they wouldn't be inhibited by the moves that East Kentwood is making.
Yeah, and East Kentwood aren't even able to slow this down at all. That is how comfortable Northview have been in this push. It has been non-stop pushing action. That's why we're seeing about 5.5 minutes on this mark, and it's only going to continue as right now East Kentwood are getting routed yet again.
Yeah, they're able to get a pick in the process, but Kawaii Orion ends up going down there, and you feel really good about the fact that two ultimates have been you could say forced out of your enemies here, right? If you are the defending East Kentwood squad, you're like, okay, they used two ults, they only have 3 of those bright check marks in the bank, but holy smokes, those are some fight-ending ultimates. Oh man, those are win conditions, and you've got the Transcendence here for Kawaii Orion to use, but it's probably a really dreary fight after that healing, after that invulnerability expires.
Yeah, it's just, again, at the end of the day, East Kentwood, they're barely putting up a fight right in front. We're already just a few meters shy from the finish, and Northview are more than happy to take this battle right now. It's the first time where they're seeing East Kentwood really build up, and now they got 4 ults. Are they going to use them at all?
They won't be able to. The Transcendence isn't able to be applied, and with the Zenyatta Dispatch, now is the time to draw the blade from its sheath and begin swinging, slashing, and shinging. And that's actually going to probably be it for the defense. You have a last-ditch touch here, Orbital, but it's looking really slight, especially since you have some really excellent ways to knock back. Yeah, the defenders. Northview. Oh man. Orbital, Northview is absolutely going to have this one kind of memorialized in the textbook of how to run this map really well.
And it's yet again G-Fighter stepping up. I feel like a lot of Northview's play is starting to come down to the fact that G-Fighter is just kind of left alone, right? You send Will, you send Goosus just to go a little bit crazy. You allow them to go wreak havoc in the back line, and allows G-Fighter to kind of step into the middle, either take the objective or take any of those extra kills on the back end. East Kentwood for their own just hasn't found a mark at all. You know, Blade hasn't really had much impact. Dia kind of in the same position, and it's not for want of trying. They are actively trying as hard as possible. It just feels like their identification of the targets has been a little bit lackluster, and you know, the tanking has been okay. It's just overall Northview are classing them in the micro expressions and how cleanly they hit their shots and then some. We're seeing a shift over as Free Shot is moving to the Malgo, which to me makes a lot of sense. I like the Malgo personally.
Love that
Plus
hero.
with the Juno behind, like you're going to have a lot more tanking power, but that's what we need to see. For East Kentwood, it might not be the end of the series, but the end of this game could determine how you're feeling moving into map 3.
Oh man. A map 3 into a map 4 into a map 5 would be really nice, and so really as part of that win condition, you really want a really strong push. Oh, we're gonna swap off the Maga. I love that character. Hey Baptiste, remember when we pushed all the way to the end of Midtown in 5 minutes against Northview? But that's not gonna be what we see here. It's gonna be actually the Junker Queen leading the charge here, which I actually really like. Junker Queen into the Orisa matchup is fun. But man, I love Maga. I love Maga.
It's such a good character, but at the same time, it's, you know, if you're not comfortable with it, if you're not comfortable and you're not kind of confident in your own utility and in your supports to keep you alive, yeah, you probably don't want to step up. So instead, the Junker Queen is going to come out here, and already we're seeing Northview kind of batten down the hatches, but a great shot to start things off as Whale is not allowed to rotate.
Yeah, Whale cut off in one of their endeavors. I actually really, I actually really like getting active at a time like that. But out of the context of your team, you're going to end up forcing your team to make some compromises. As you get a push there from East Kentwood, you are going to have trades on either sides with Pack Reaper going down. It's a really nice position that Free Shot could set themselves up into kind of let off the gas a little bit, slow down, and wait for the rest of the squad. But oh, this relentless aggression from G-Fighter makes any plan off of any good early setups very difficult the longer these fights last.
Yep, this is just being that annoyance at the end of the day. Northview yet again staggering these deaths. And you can see Kawhi now actually getting checked in the mix, making sure to try and keep everyone healthy. But you can see the HP bar is bleeding a little bit low. We're stuck on G-Fighter now, which I appreciate. But again, G-Fighter is just being annoyed. Now you got the Terror Surge ready to go, and this could be the big break point.
Oh, yes, and there's the trigger pull. Oh, it does get Amity. That's the lifeline. That's the healing, and there's the damage, and there's the frontline presence objective space control that you're all losing out of now. The call is to reset, group up as a team, and look to push in without having to worry about that Terror Surge.
Yep, I mean, yes, that's true, but you burn off yet another about 30 seconds, so... You know, for Northview, I think that's a huge win. You're not even worried because you've been winning without the ult. The main thing is East Kentwood, they're going to have to take about, I would say, 30 seconds to even build up the rest of the ult charge. I Love Blades needs their ult. Freeze Shot needs their ult. It's going to take time to get these percentages, so it's going to come down to one last big hurrah from East Kentwood if they want to break onto this point.
Hopefully they're able to find something, but not having our Sojourn to apply pressure onto G-Fighter, which is absolutely the target that you want to be pushing back, is really tough. Without the pressure, G-Fighter is free to run amok, and with G-Fighter free, you're able to push in through this choke. Now, ultimately, losing G-Fighter is part of the win condition. You see that as G-Fighter goes down, you're able to get the Junker Queen Rampage off, apply some of that anti-healing. No picks are able to be secured, though, because, oh man, even I had forgotten picks had been secured at the earliest stages of the fight. Free Shot ends up going down, and now one team has their tank and one doesn't, has to use the other ultimates that they have, both support ultimates in play, with actually still a minute in the bank. I'm kind of wondering, Orbital, if they have more time than they realize or less time than they thought, but Daya is making the most happen with as little as they've got. Even the rally is forced back. Pack Reaper has to move back and reset with the team, and a Whale is now asking, can we go back in? I have my ult. It's time to let her rip. And a re-engage onto the objective is a really nice objective stall, but if the rest of the team isn't there, then I'd rather just get back and set up to hold this choke really, really closely.
Yep, they're going to go ahead and hang on for what it's worth, and you call it East Kentwood kind of at that last hour of the day, so close to a battle of attrition, and yet they kind of blow through, but they got to build it up as quickly as possible. They got 2.5 minutes. Are they going to be able to push as far? Because Northview already with the ultimates of their own. G-Fighter right into the mix again.
Oh my goodness, another Terror Surge. Those built so quickly for our illustrious horse player. And now the rest of Northview can just surge around this corner and look for these stagger eliminations. Catch your wave, as I've been known to say to some of my players before. And man, you love being able to, as the defenders, force new respawn waves. I mean, that's whole seconds that the team now has to sit there and wait. So most of East Kentwood is actually really, really good about resetting as a team. I've actually really liked when they've chosen to die, because it's important to die so that you can reset with your team. Look at this, a 5v5 fight now, but Orbital, there are some ult advantages for Northview.
Yep. Northview, I think, is going to be more than happy. Again, they burned off a minute, and it's barely moved that payload, but Whale makes a mistake and steps into wrong positions, which means East Kent would have found a pick for free. Now, can the rest of Northview be able to stand strong and be able to hold on until Will comes back? We got a minute 30 left, but East Kentwood, they're pushing.
They are. Ooh, they're making some really good headway, and as well getting their own stagger eliminations. I mentioned the boon of the defense to get those late picks, but honestly, you love it if you're the attackers, because every single instance of instability that you can apply is a very meaningful chance to take an Overwatch. Now, instability incarnate here in G-Fighters engage onto Free Shot, which is absolutely the signal to start this fight in earnest. The rest of Northview, who are present, I think this was a 4v4 surge around East Kentwood's formation and crumple them from outside.
Yep, this was a Northview really well put together. And East Kentwood now realizing that they're not in the right position for themselves. But they got some ults. They did this last time. And honestly, Ethan, I think this is the moment that they can break through. It took them about 2 minutes, but they can do so. If they can fight through, they can hit that first checkpoint and add some more time up. Really keep eyes on Goosus and G-Fighter, though.
You just are never giving up at any point. You absolutely know that it's winnable, and all you have to do is push through this choke so that you can push to the end, but you have a Terror Surge to fight through. Anteing it is the call. G-Fighter goes down. There's so much damage going into that horse because you have to kill that horse. Free shot tangled up with a Venture in the background, and that is going to make this high ground a very safe place, or a much safer place for Northview to exist, especially concerning that they, at one point, had a little pseudo-tank of their own with the Brig Rally coming out in support of that defensive endeavor. You do have ultimates still remaining on the side of East Kentwood, but they have to get a touch on the objective. No longer will they be able to have the forward and upper spaces, and that means a really poor angle to get the most out of their abilities, which want to favor those spaces. Northview able to make the most and best of this Midtown defense in, I think, probably the only Midtown we'll get to see this weekend, taking the second map of the series.
I mean, it was very, very well done overall from Northview. Midtown done and dusted. And it was comfortable. I will say East Kentwood did put up a fight, but overall Northview kind of controlled the pacing from start to finish. This was all the way at the beginning of their attacking phase. Northview really didn't have any struggles, in my opinion. Like, this is still a squad that is very comfortable in their runs. They really don't have any worries, and that scares me. Again, we mentioned how strong Bishop Kelly felt yesterday. It feels like Northview are right there as well. So I'm going to be keeping eyes out. I think the grand final is going to be big, but this one, unless East Kentwood comes out with a crazy composition, comes out with a nasty styling, if you're running that far, if you're running that Symmetra, you have pocket Symmetra that you haven't run before, I just don't see them overcoming Northview. Northview just looked too good, whether on offense or defense.
Northview looks really strong. They look really aware. They look very knowledgeable about what's going on, where those goings on are going on, and with whom those goings on are going on
Yep.
between. That means that every advantage you manage to establish, but more importantly, every disadvantage that gets imposed on you, you're kind of ready to capitalize on. And that sounds crazy. Capitalizing on a disadvantage? Like, yes, you don't actually think about doing that, because the people who don't think about doing that aren't the ones to tell us to think about doing that, right? They didn't win to give us that.
Yep.
Northview knows that in the face of adversity, your only option is to climb. So when they lose a whale early on, when G Fighter collapses, doing the Lord's work on the objective, right? Ensign dies on the point. What's giving Northview a really nice edge in those fights where they are starting down is the fact that they know how to keep that fight going long enough to, guys, windows of opportunity, they refresh constantly in Overwatch. So, like, you lose your tank at the beginning of the fight, don't worry. If you keep the fight going long enough, you get your tank back at some point. This isn't
Yeah.
Valorant.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I really like that from
hmm
Northview.
Yeah. It's been consistent. I will say it's not like a one and done shiner moment. It's been
Hmm.
very consistent for them to be able to swap out their carries and swap around who they need to be in that front lines and who needs to take that spotlight away. And that's, I think, the big challenge. East Kentwood, whenever they had all the ults up and they were on point, they said, "Hey, let's go ahead and all five kind of throw ourselves against the wall and see what sticks." That's when we saw them shine. That's great and all, but the game does not revolve around the ults as much as you would assume. You need to get those gun rounds down. So I'm looking at Blade. I'm looking at those DPS and seeing if they can bring out a fundamental difference. Yes, it's hard to overcome the opponents, but you really need to just kind of lock in and say, hey, we're at the Nationals too. We won our division. We won through our state, championship. Now we're here at the Nationals, and now we're ready to go even further than that. So, really big shout out to East Kentwood. I mean, they're fighting hard, but obviously Northview is a very strong opponent. So, I want to see if East Kentwood is able to step up. I want to see if they're able to kind of bring themselves to a higher level and go for that reverse sweep here today.
Oh man, and all of our East Kentwood players, staff, teachers, parents, and fans absolutely know that they can, and they do, and they have as well. How else do you make it here to the 2025 Scholastic Champs, right? Where at the like two times, what is it? Two times a year, you get the top 100 high school esports programs, and you gather them all up for the Portal Convine. There's actually one right around the corner. So actually, East Kentwood. they've already kind of made it to some of this, right? They're getting showcased here, and oh man, I'm so hopeful that we get to see all of these high school programs at that June combine. I think actually. I might be mistaken. I think it's happening in Missouri on the in the Maryville University campus.
Well,
And
that's the land. The combine might be a little bit different, I will say. I
Oh,
just want
okay,
to,
gotcha.
yeah. So the land will actually be for the Valorant and the SSBU Nationals. It will be at the Maryville University Center, and that's what we're looking at. So, very, very important to distinguish that because that's at the end. That's like the final piece of the puzzle,
Yep.
right at the end of the day. So we're very, very excited for that one. That'll be June, as you said, middle of June in there.
Yeah, and so making it to this point is a big deal. We know that East Kentwood can step up, and that they have, and so now it's just a matter of, I think, Orbital trying something new, doing something different, seeing if you can subvert the expectations yet again. I mean, hey, they rug pulled you and me with the Midtown pick.
Yeah, they were able to kind of give us a little bit of a shake, and maybe they can do even more so. Honestly, though, this one, East Kentwood, they lost previously, and it's only a choice between this and New Junk City, I believe. So it's like, no, actually, this is New Junk. Am I crazy? Is that what we're looking at here? Man, my brain is lost
Yeah,
right now.
no, it's New Junk City.
Wow,
Yep.
what a treat, and I'm very, very excited.
I oh man, Orbital. I love Flashpoint. I think I unironically think that this is Overwatch 2's best game mode. I think that mobility is a really mobility has emerged as like one of the core principles of Overwatch, and you know, on some of those old Overwatch 1 maps that are so big and so vast and so long, mobility is really important. But you can make every character feel mobile if you take a very large map and make it just like take large points and scrunch them into a small arena, and then put 10 people in to fill those small spaces. And look at the spaces already filling up here. You have this absolute chokehold of this choke point here that now East Kentwood is going to have to navigate around amidst all of this pressure, all of the cooldowns from Northview, all
Oof.
emerging all at the same time. Man, how cramped do you want this space to look?
Apparently, even more so, as East Kentwood are squished against the wall and denied any sort of value. There's the final tag. G Fighter makes sure to stagger that out just a little bit more. And Northview are on the run to a comfortable map number 3. Now, granted, there could be a revive. There it is coming out here. And East Kentwood are going to try and bring themselves back to a little bit better degree. The problem is ultimate charges are heavily in favor of Northview. Yet again, as you called, East Kentwood has to get around this choke point. They have to get around to another entryway.
Yeah, they're going to opt for this for the side entrance here, and some push through might be attainable with some some cooldown usage there. But you're losing your DPS follow up, and then eventually your tank until it's only the supports remaining. And remember, actually, if there is actually one single thing, which there isn't only, but there's one single thing to praise East Kentwood about, it is making sure that they know to get in and reset with the rest of their team. Unfortunately, that one actually this is the one time that doesn't happen. Our support's looking to get active there, and I actually really like that because look at the support ultimate generation for East Kentwood now. Now it's competitive, right? So you do take a little bit of a stagger. You don't play for that first flashpoint. I'm not a believer in trying to win that first flashpoint anyways. This middle objective is so strenuous. And you get to equalize the support ult generation of the process. That's actually kind of a dub to me. I like it.
Yeah, it's living up to it, but Diaz now having that Bolo online, and maybe they get a little shift of their own. For East Kentwood, is it going to work in their favor as G-Fighter is ready on the wayside to battle it out?
Yeah, they've got plenty of support with them as well, and the point's going to unlock here soon, so the fight is going to kind of orient itself a little bit closer towards the objective. You're looking for openings here if you are Northview, and you're especially looking to get something started here. After losing a whale, it's probably time to let a rip on one of the ultimates, maybe to make people suffer, as I have, and G-Fighter is absolutely making space to compensate for the absence of that DPS follow-up. There's a lot of damage coming out from them, but also to them as well, and the G-Fighter is making the most of that pressure. Them taking all of that means that the rest of the team can go in and apply some damage themselves. Ultimately, Amity and Freeshot are both forced out with the rest of the squad.
Yep, they got to reset, and they have no choice in the matter. They need to reset, get back with the rest of the team, and get ready for a hunkered down battle. Because I know you said you didn't want the first flashpoint to be taken. Doesn't matter. We're already onto the second, and it's already being bled dry. East Kentwood
Yeah.
are quickly running out of options here. That's why Free Shot is moving over to that Roadhog. Now you're just looking for picks, which I actually kind of agree with this. Just start peeling away Northview.
Yeah. Forcing any of them out of formation, and you're actually getting some payoffs for that as well. I like how a whale is kind of the consistent lamb to the slaughter there, and that lets the rest of us actually use our ults and move forward if we're Northview players. Ultimately, moving forward is still a little bit hard. You got to navigate back to the objective, some of the natural cover that exists around here, especially in the face of overwhelming damage that Free Shot is capable of with all of the damage behind them. There's the Mercy Tether, there's the Orbital Ray, and there's Daya with the follow-up. Holy smokes on the Freya. That character is still so busted.
It is, and it's especially busted when you use 4 ultimates in conjunction with each other. So Northview, I mean, is sitting at 98%. I want to point that out. 98% on this Flashpoint 2. You're not worried, right? Like, that's great. You burned 3 ults. You were talking about it earlier by East Kentwood. Northview are going to say the exact same thing. Now they get a break on the site. They know they're better in the individual gun duels, and they're going to show off here. I love the fact that Will is already looking for a flank angle yet again.
Yes, and they've got this ultimate as well, so, and probably a really good reason too. Yeah, let her rip on that. They're going to pull the trigger, and it's actually not them getting the final blows, but they get enough damage that the rest of the team is able to make some really nice show-offs in the kill feed there. And now that's a second point under the belt, and potentially a third map in the series, the closer for this matchup in Northview's pocket. They're looking really good, Orbital.
Yeah, it's brutal. That's all I can really say. This has been a disgusting semifinals from Northview, and I can only imagine that East Kentwood, they're going to have one last hurrah. It's going to happen right here as Free Shot stepping up with a possible whole hog if they can. But Northview making sure to kind of body block here. I love what G-Fighter is doing.
Ooh, what a hook. Yeah, oh, I absolutely love what, oh man, I love all of it. The brazen confidence to walk into this room, even though you did just see what, the corners that a whale got yoinked into, and the rest of East Kentwood making sure that that position was really carved out as a space for Free Shot to Ulton, means that they get the first capture progress, which I think in a matchup between East Kentwood and Northview ends up being kind of important.
Yep, this has been a little bit of a shift here, and for East Kentwood, you're so happy about first touch, but can you hang on to it? We talked about the high flyer action. You talked about that little shift, and Dia's now going to open up with the bola yet again.
Yeah, Free Shot as well managed to get their pick, and Gooses is getting these big right clickies actually from these Juno players this weekend has been awesome. There's still trades though, that favorable ones for Northview that they're making, and they're losing a couple of people, but they get the objective in the process. That's kind of a huge dub.
I think that's the step that you're really hoping for as Northview go like, hey, we gave you 58%. That's about all we're giving. Now you got to fight a little bit further. Yeah. As Will is able to take out Free Shot. That's step number 1. Remember, East Kentwood are now staggered just a little bit. You're hoping for a round out with an extra ult from Amity and Blade. Free Shot is only sitting on about 40%. So, man, they got to battle away, but Gooses is ready with the Orbital Ray. This is not leaning into East Kentwood's favor.
Yeah. It's going to be a little bit tough to punch through. You're kind of hoping that Dai gets the bola in time, or at least enough spam damage onto G-Fighter to slow them down, because you see how G-Fighter is watching how East Kentwood is moving and looking to capitalize on this Ramatra slow. Those perks actually that these characters get are so enabling to these kits. It's going to force ultimates to be used in response. Both support ultimates, namely, are used as part of the endeavor to hold, or I'm sorry, to take this objective, hold onto the space enough to get more picks than just a whale, who once again, sacrificial lamb of our Northview roster, ends up going down. A rally in the backlines finds the stun onto Kawaii. I Love Blade does use their ultimate to get trades in the process. This one is actually an East Kentwood dub. Let's go. They managed to hold on.
Yeah, and that's just such a nice hold. Dio was very, very comfortable with that one. Really, really nice on with the bola in conjunction with Blade, and East Kentwood in their final hour are yet again able to rip away one. That's a give up. You say, hey, okay, Northview, let's go back to the drawing board. We're not going to duel for this one. I don't think we're going to be able to touch point unless you are, and you're going to hard fight it out, and you are going to call for that. No way. Punch off point, but OT is calling.
What a hook. Oh, that's absolutely disgusting touch, disgusting hook, disgusting semifinals match like you called it earlier, Orbital, and now we've got a whole hog to hey, get off of my objective, hey, get off my lawn. If this were Soldier
Oh my
76 instead of
gosh.
Roadhog, we'd be Helix rocketing people off of the point, and ultimately it's still going to flip offer in the favor of Northview. Caught up in the excitement, me and Free Shot both were as he sinks into the point beneath the objective, and ultimately the rest of East Kentwood isn't able to stay. That's our first series of the day going to Northview.
I mean, that was beautiful work. Yet again, Northview showing that they are one of the most dominant squads out there. And I mean, it was comfortable. I really don't know who stood out more to me because this time even Whale was making a lot of those picks and rotations. Yeah, the Creeper was stepping up for the side of East Kentwood, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
We talked about the difference between a singular shining moment and consistency. And Northview just exude consistency. I feel like that's the best way to put it. Every time I look at them, no matter what, it's always this consistent factor. They're playing at a really, really good pace and a really good level. And then every so often, a team will come by and just kind of sweep them off their feet and say, okay, yeah, you're not allowed to do this. Northview say, great, you burned 2, 3 ultimates to show off. Doesn't matter. We're still going to run the show. So for Northview, very consistent. East Kentwood put up a fight. 100% they put up a fight. Just Northview was that much better.
Yeah, Northview played really, really nicely, and I love the way that you said that. Orbital is the Northview roster exudes that oh my goodness that consistency, is that the word that you would use?
Yeah, I
Um,
use
and
consistency.
um, and you're absolutely right. They consistently knew how to respond to those fights. I think that for East Kentwood, when we see them again, it's exuding confidence. They had really good ideas. I think that they had really good ideas. And instead of having the good idea and then being brought up against adversity and kind of being, oh goodness, kind of backed away from that good idea, leaning fully into it gives them some really excellent agency. Against a team or between a team with good ideas and a team with great consistency, you are going to see that team with great consistency really get to shine. And Northview, oh man, they're going to keep shining today. Orbital, I think that's just one of 3 matches that we have, and I'm honestly really, really sad to see the East Kentwood roster go. I could watch them all afternoon, but we have other matchups to watch.
Yes, we do. Our next matchup is going to be the other side of the semifinals, which is going to be, I believe, looking at Bishop Kelly versus Dallas Center Grimes, both teams that we watched before. And curious to see who comes out on top here.
Absolutely. So on the other side of a short break, guys, we will be watching the second of those matchups of those 3 that we have today. Stay with us. We're not going anywhere, and neither should you. We'll be right back.